Okay, good evening and welcome to session number 7 for business economics. Let's go ahead and start the session. Today we are talking about outputs and costs. So after studying this chapter, we'll be able to distinguish between short run and long run. So what's the difference between short run and long run and its implications on the business? Explaining the relationship between a firm's output and labor employed in the short run. Explain the relationship between a firm's output and cost in the short run. Derive and explain a firm's short run cost curve. Explain the relationship between a firm's output and cost in the long run, and derive and explain firm's long run average cost curve. So the ATM is everywhere. Why are banks closing teller windows and replacing them with ATMs, automatic machines? Why do automakers have unused production capacity while electric utilities sometimes can produce enough to meet the demand? This chapter studies the firm's production possibilities and cost of production. So, first of all, we need to understand the decision time frame. What do we mean by decision time frame? The firm makes many decisions to achieve its objective, of course, and the objective is profit maximization. I mean, as a firm, what else do we want? We want to maximize our profit. We want to make money. So, other than that, we probably don't have any other goal. So that's the source of all the decisions that we make. Some decisions are critical to the survival of a firm. Sometimes we make decisions that are critical to, for the survival of our firm. And then some of them are irreversible. I mean, you make decisions and they cost us money, and then we cannot cancel those. We cannot reverse those decisions we make. You know, a lot of times our decisions will stay the way they are for a long time or short term, and if you want to cancel those, it will cost us money. So it's important to understand the implications of the decisions that we make, because those will have important impacts on our business, short term and long term as well. Other decisions are easily reversed or less critical. So there are decisions that are easily reversed and less critical. Okay. All decisions can be placed in two time frames, short run and long run. So we basically can make decisions based on two terms, short term and long term. So what do we mean by short run? What does it take for a decision to be considered a short run? So the short run is a time frame in which the quantity of one or more resources used in production is fixed. So basically, the short run does not give enough time for the quantity of one or more of the resources that are used in the production of that same material and same product to change, so they stay the same. For most firms, the capital called the firm's plan is fixed in the short run. So basically, in the short run, we basically need the capital of the firm to be the same. Other resources used by the firm, such as labor, raw materials, and energy, can be changed in the short run. So sometimes other resources can change in the short run, and short run decisions are easily reversed. A lot of times we see that the short run decisions can easily be changed and canceled or reversed or edited and modified. So short run decisions are not that important. That costly, because we can make changes because our capital is going to stay the same in the meantime. How about the long run then? Long run is a time frame which quantities of all resources, including the plant size, which is the capital, can be varied. So the capital of your business, what actually moves your company forward, that money actually changes. So long-run decisions are not easily reversed, because while you make that decision and it's moving on and the time is passing by, basically your capital, your plant, all that is gonna be reduced or changed. So basically, when you want to reduce or when you want to reverse or change that decision, you're not able to, because you have already made that decision. So it's very difficult to make any changes now. So sunk cost is also a very important concept. So sunk cost is a cost incurred by the firm and cannot be changed. So when you make a sunk cost, then you are not able to make any changes. So if a firm's plant has no resale value, the amount paid for it is a sunk cost. So when you make a sunk cost, so the amount you pay cannot be returned to you, because there is no resale value. There is no way for you to get back your capital that is spent. So sunk costs are irrelevant to a firm's decision. So when you make a sunk cost, you make an irrelevant decision. It means that's the wrong decision. I mean, especially in any business that you want to, I mean, for any business, the main purpose, the main goal is to make money, is to succeed. And you would never, ever want to make a sunk cost, because sunk costs are those irrelevant costs that are not giving you any returns. You're not making any money on those investments. So you don't want to make any sunk costs, because that's not a good business decision. So to increase output in the short run, a firm must increase the amount of labor employed. So when you want to increase the amount of output within a very short amount of time, you need to bring in more labor. You need to work harder. You need to employ more people and work at the same time to produce more output, and then it will increase your output in the short run. Three concepts describe the relationship between output and quantity of labor employed. First of all, you need total product concept, marginal product, and average product. We're going to discuss all these three major concepts that are basically described when it comes to output and the relationship with the labor that you employ. So let's go to them one by one. Total product is the total product output produced in a given period of time. So let's say you are a tire manufacturing company. So your total product is the total tires that you produce in, let's say, in that certain amount of time. Let's say in a month, your total product is the total number of tires that you produce in that certain month. The marginal product, though, and the marginal product of a labor is the change in total product that results from 1 unit increase in the quantity of labor employed, with all other inputs remaining the same. So the marginal product then is a different concept, though. When you are employing, bringing in new labor, the increase in 1 unit in your labor, the amount of change in the total product that you get is called your marginal product. And the average product of the labor is equal to total product divided by quantity of labor employed, and that's important. The average product is very, very telling for you as a business owner, as a manager, as someone involved in business, as a consultant, or whatever you do. When you want to know and understand what sort of output you're getting according to the labor, you're looking at average product, which is equal to total product divided by the quantity of labor employed. So now let's go to product curves. Product curves are graphs of three product concepts that show how total product, marginal product, and average product change as the quantity of labor employed changes. So we want to know how the labor that we employ impacts the total product, marginal product, and average product. So look at this. The total product curve. This curve shows a total product curve. So the total product curve shows how total product changes with quantity of labor employed. At the bottom, you see the labor working per day, and you see the output. So as the working hours per day increases, so you'll see that your output also increases. At 1 worker per day, you have B, the dot B, which is a little bit less than 5 output. At 2, you have 10. At 3, you have 15, less than 15 actually. At 4, you have 15, and you see as it goes up, then suddenly it gets to a point that the more workers you have, not necessarily increase your output as much. So you will increase your labor to a level that is productive. So the total product curve is similar to attainable outputs leveled from unattainable output levels in the short run. So, in a sense, we want to say that the total product curve is like product possibility frontier. Production possibility frontier, you remember the possibility of production that we discussed last week, or product possibility curve. We have efficiency, opportunity, marginal rate of transportation. All that was discussed last session. So in a sense, the total product curve is similar to product possibility frontier. We had attainable, non-attainable. So it separates attainable output levels from unattainable output levels. So whatever is below the blue line, the blue curved line, is your attainable output. Which is obtained by using that number of workers per day. The marginal product curve, though. It shows the marginal product of the labor curve and how the marginal product curve relates to total product curve. So the first worker is hired and they produce 4 units. Then you see the second worker is hired and they produce 6 units of output and total production of 10. The third worker is hired and 3 units is increased, so 13 and so on. So you see as you go up and you have more workers hired, the number of increase or marginal product is not going to be as much, because as you add to your workers, you're reducing your it's like marginal utility, same concept of marginal utility, but on a different topic. So the height of each bar measures the marginal product of the labor. So for example, when labor increases from 2 to 3, the total product increased from 10 to 13. So the marginal product of the third worker is 3 units of output. So to make a graph of the marginal product of the labor, we can stack the bars and in the previous graph by side, and the marginal product of the labor curve passes through the third point of these bars. So you can see the marginal product is decreasing. First is increasing, and then it becomes to a point that it starts decreasing. So you have an increase, but that increase, the level of increase decreases. So that's how we have an increase, decrease, and increase, and so the marginal product is going to decrease. So almost all production processes are like the one shown here and have initially increasing marginal returns and eventually diminishing, law of diminishing factor. We discussed that in the first sessions of our course. So there is a diminishing factor. So this increase is not everlasting, and it will start decreasing and fading away. So initially increasing marginal return. When the marginal product of a worker exceeds the marginal product of the previous worker, the marginal product of the labor increases and the firm increasing marginal return. So the way we look at it is, we look at the marginal product. Now we want to make sure the marginal product of the next worker, the increase that they have, we call it marginal product, is more than the previous one. So until we have that, we are okay. So we have marginal returns. But eventually diminishing is when marginal product of a worker is less than marginal product of the previous worker, and marginal product of the labor decreases, and the firm experiences a diminishing marginal return. So increasing marginal returns arise from increased specialization and division of labor. So diminishing marginal returns arises from the fact that employing additional units of labor means each worker has less access to capital and less space in which to work. So diminishing marginal returns are so pervasive that they are elevated to the status of law. So law of diminishing returns states that as firms uses more of variable input with a given quantity of fixed inputs, the marginal product of the variable input eventually diminishes. So this is the law of diminishing returns. We have discussed that with marginal utility. Now we're going to consider that with marginal product. So when firms uses more of the variable input, means labor in this case, a given quantity of fixed inputs are there, so the marginal product of the variable input eventually diminishes because your fixed input is actually the same. You're not adding to your fixed input. You're just adding to your variable input, and that variable input is only able to add to a certain level. After a certain time, the extra input you put, like the very extra variable input, is not going to help you much because your fixed input is going to be the same. So average product curve. It shows the product curve and its relationship with the marginal product curve. So when marginal product exceeds average product increases. Look at here, short run technology constraints. You see that average product curve and its relationship with marginal product curve. So when marginal product exceeds average product, then average product increases, as you can see. So we want to make sure your marginal product exceeds the average product. So that's when technology is constraining us and give us its limitations. So when marginal product is below average product decreases. When marginal product equals average product is at its maximum. So the maximum average product is when marginal product and average product are the same. So that's very good. That's the prime time. That's the great time. You want to stay there. You as a company want to stay there. You want to keep on producing same average product as your marginal product. So the relationship between a student's marginal class grade and her or his grade point average is similar to between marginal product and average product. So if a student's next class grade is higher or lower than the student's GPA, this marginal grade will put the student's GPA average grade up or down. So this is the same concept. Let's say you're taking a few courses. So one of the courses, if your score is higher than your GPA, it will push your GPA, which is your average grade or average product similarly, up. But if it's lower, it will push it down. And if the next class grade is the same as the GPA, the GPA will remain unchanged. So to produce more output in the short run, the firm must employ more labor. That's true, which means that it must increase its cost. But we describe the way a firm's cost change as a total product changes by using three cost concepts: total cost, marginal cost, and average cost. But we gotta understand these three concepts: the total cost, marginal cost, and average cost. So a firm's total cost, we call TC, is the cost of all resources used. This is your total overall cost. All of those resources used is called total cost. And total fixed cost, we call TFC, is the cost of the firm's fixed inputs. Fixed costs do not change without output. So your fixed costs, there's no relationship between your output and your fixed costs. Your fixed costs are going to stay the same. And then we have total variable costs. This is where your output has a relationship on your variable cost. So total cost equals the total fixed cost plus total variable cost. So this is an important concept you got to know. So let's say when you are increasing labor, so you're adding to your total cost, and actually adding to your total variable cost. So this figure shows a firm's total cost curve. Look at here. You have a total cost, total variable cost. Total cost is always higher. You have a total fixed cost at the very bottom is always the same. Then you have a total variable cost, and the addition of these two will create your total cost. Okay? So total fixed cost is the same at each output level. Doesn't matter, whatever output level you have the same total fixed cost. It could be your like rent you pay for your place, and certain bills that are gonna be the same. And then variable cost increases as your output actually increases. There are costs that as you do more, you will actually pay more. Let's say when you are, like when it comes to electricity, there's a flat rate for the bill, but as you use more of electricity, your variable cost increases. So it has a relationship between your output, like the amount of output you're working on, like number of hours a day, number of products that you want to create per hour, all that will have an effect on your variable costs. So total cost, which is the sum of total fixed costs and variable costs, also increases as the output increases. So total variable cost curve gets its shape from the total product curve. So the total product curve, or total possibility frontier in a sense, it gives the shape to total variable cost. The total product curve becomes steeper at low output levels and then less steep at high output levels. So in contrast, the total variable cost becomes less steep at low output levels and much steeper at the high output levels. These are like in the opposite direction. The total product curve is steeper at low output, but less steep at the higher levels. But then for variable costs is the opposite way. So to see the relationship between the total variable curve and the total product curve, let's look again at the total product curve. Look at the total product curve. You see how steep it is at the beginning, and then it becomes less steep? Well, let's add a second x-axis measure, which is the variable cost. So worker costs $25, two workers so 50, and so on. So x-axis line is off. So we can replace the quantity of labor on x-axis with total variable cost. So look at the previous chart. You have the total product, I have total variable cost. When we do that, we must change the name of the curve to total variable cost. So as you can see, in the previous chart, you have labor and you have output, but in this one, we change cost and output. So instead of labor, when we have cost, it gives us total variable cost. But it's graphed with cost on the x-axis and output on the y-axis. So it's not like this. So cost should be on x, and output should be on y, and that's why it becomes different from total product. And that's how it shows like this. But the total fixed cost curve is back in the figure, so you see you have total fixed cost, total variable cost, and total cost. So cost is on x. Cost is on y-axis, sorry, and then output is on x-axis. So that's how it works. Okay. So what about marginal cost? Marginal cost is the increase in total cost that results from 1 unit increase in total output. So we have a marginal cost concept also. So when we add 1 unit to our output, there is some increase in cost we call marginal cost. So over the output range, with increasing marginal returns, marginal cost falls as output increases. So this goes back to the economies of scale and all that concept. So as the output increases, the marginal cost decreases. So over the output range, with diminishing marginal returns, marginal cost rises as output increases. So when because of the diminishing marginal return, so when the marginal returns diminishes, marginal cost increases. Are you following so far? I mean, these are two separate concepts. We have the marginal cost, which is first diminishing because your marginal return is increasing. But then it gets to a point that your marginal returns will start decreasing, and then your marginal costs will start increasing. So The average cost measures can be derived from each of the total cost measures. First, average fixed cost is the total fixed cost per unit of output. Average variable cost is the total variable cost per unit of output. And then average total cost is the average cost per unit of output. So when you change that to per unit, then from total cost equals fixed cost plus average cost, you become to average total cost, average fixed cost, and average variable cost. So when you calculate the fixed cost per unit and then fixed cost for an average for variable cost, then you will get the average total cost, which is also a very important concept. So this figure shows the marginal cost, average fixed cost, average variable cost, and average total cost. So you see the average variable cost, average fixed cost. So the average fixed cost curve shows that average fixed cost falls as the output increases. So you can see as output increases, the average fixed cost is getting less and less and less. But average variable cost is U-shaped. So as output increases, average variable cost falls to a minimum and then increases again. Because if you remember, there was only to a certain point that your average variable cost is going to decrease, because at a certain level, then your average variable cost is starting to increase because your average return is decreasing. So these are related to each other. So the average total cost curve is also U-shaped. And the marginal cost curve is very special. And average variable cost is falling and marginal cost is below average variable cost. And then where average variable cost is rising, then marginal cost is above average variable cost. And at the minimum, average variable cost, marginal cost equals average variable cost. Okay? So these are all these different concepts and charts one at the same time. You're looking at them. You see the marginal cost, you see the average total cost, you see the average variable cost, you see the average fixed cost. So average fixed cost and average variable cost give you the average total cost. And then marginal cost, as you can see, is the increasing cost per increasing output. So you always want to have your marginal cost below your average total cost. This is the minimum. So similarly, though, average total cost is falling. The marginal cost is below average total cost. Where average total cost is rising, the marginal cost is above average total cost. So when the average total cost is going to start, then the marginal cost is going to increase, because the increase in the output is going to cost you more now than it was before. And at minimum, average total cost, marginal cost, and average total cost equals each other. So average total cost and marginal cost. Marginal cost and average total cost are the same. So why the average total cost curve is U-shaped? The average variable cost curve is U-shaped because initially marginal product exceeds average product. So marginal product, increasing the production first, is more than the average product. So that's overall output divided by the labor, which brings rising average product and falling average variable cost. Eventually, marginal product falls below average product, so the increase in the output will become less than the average product. and to make you guys understand, you can still remember the GPA and the course exam. So your marginal product is like your score in that new course you take, and your average product is your GPA. So when your new course, you score less than your GPA, then your GPA starts falling. And your average cost, in this case, is going to increase. This is the cost of production. So the average total cost curve is usual for the same reason, in the addition that average total cost falls at low output levels because average total cost is falling steeply. So maybe that would be a good point now to just pause for a second and see if you guys have any questions. Okay, what I want to do, I want to show you guys a couple clips too. Okay, so let me show you guys a clip, a video clip, that could help us understand it better. So I'm going to show you those to make sure you guys are following the concept.
Numbers. In this tutorial, I'm going to discuss production theory with some numbers. While each of these tutorials are independent, this is the second tutorial in a three-part series. In this tutorial, I'll discuss production theory, and I will use some numbers. The total product curve and the marginal product and average product curves look like this. And in this tutorial, I'm going to take these numbers and I'm going to plot them and calculate them as well and show you how it's done. And I'll try to go slow. The amount of capital in my example is fixed at 2, and I'll vary the labor. And I also know the total product. This is a given. Now, if I plot labor along the x-axis and quantity along the y-axis, I can draw in the total product curve. For example, if my amount of labor is 6, my total product, or my quantity produced, will be 300. So the brown line is the total product curve, and the brown numbers represent the curve. Again, my amount of capital is fixed at 2. Now, if I want to calculate average product of labor, the way I do that, for example, I take 1 labor unit, and that equates to 57, quantity of 57, for total product of 57. Then I take 57 divided by 1, and this is equal to 57, which is the average product of labor. Let me do another example. Imagine that I have 2 labor units, and my quantity, or my total product, will be 118. I divide that by 2, and my average product of labor is 59. It turns out 177 divided by 3 is 59 as well. 228 divided by 4 is 57. And let me just fill in the rest of these numbers for you. Hope you're getting the hang of it. And 340 divided by 10 is 34. Total product divided by labor is equal to average product of labor. And now I'm going to calculate marginal product of labor. It's a little bit different than average product of labor. Actually, it is different. Let me start with 1 labor unit. I think, yeah, like that. And that equates to a total product or quantity of 57. Now, if I move to 2 labor units, that equates to total product or quantity of 118. So I added 1 labor unit, and the question is, how much quantity did I increase? How much was quantity increased? So I take 118 minus 57 divided by 2 minus 1. This is equal to 61 divided by 1. And this equates to 61, of course. And this is my marginal product of labor, moving from 1 to 2 units of labor. So I took 118 minus 57 and divided that by 2 minus 1, and that gave me 61. Let's imagine now I want to calculate marginal product of labor at 3 labor units. So I take 177 minus 118 and divide that by 3 minus 2. 177 minus 118 divided by 3 minus 2, and this is equal to 59 divided by 1, which is equal to 59. So the marginal product of labor moving from 2 to 3 labor units is 59. And now I'm just going to plug and chug the numbers into the table. Marginal product of labor, it's all in blue, obviously. And the last value is -2, which is kind of interesting. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. So when I move from 1 labor unit to 2 labor units, I look at the change in labor. And when I move in the upward direction, I look at the change in quantity. So marginal product of labor is the change in quantity divided by the change in labor, which is equal to marginal product of labor. So if I start out at 0, let me put a little yellow dot there, 0, and I go from 0 to 1, my marginal productivity of labor, marginal product of labor is 57. If I go from 1 to 2, it becomes 61. If I move from 2 to 3, it goes down, and it is 59. And I'll discuss why it goes down in a moment. From 3 to 4, it decreases again, and it goes down to 51. Notice how the curve, the brown curve, kind of bends down. That's what's causing that to bend down, the decreasing marginal product of labor. And if I go from 5 to 6, it's down to 30. And so on and so forth if I continued on. This refers to diminishing marginal returns. So if I add any more than 2 labor units, what I get from that additional labor becomes less and less. So I have 1 labor unit, it produces 57. The second one produces 61. Those two added together is my total product of 118. If I add 59, that means my total product increases to 177. So this allows me to calculate total product this way as well. So what you see is I can actually add my marginal product of labor to derive total product if I need to. 57 plus 61 is 118, plus 59 is 177. And so on and so forth, I would go. But I'm going to take the labor axis and I'm going to push that down. Let me slide that down a little bit. Labor. There it is right there. On the y-axis, or the vertical axis, I have quantity per labor. And I can plot my average product of labor on this graph right there. That's average product of labor. At 10 labor units, my average product of labor is 34. If I continue on up, my total quantity produced at that level is 340. So on the table, I have 10 labor units, total product 340, average product of labor is 34. I'll graph marginal product of labor, it's blue. Notice that these two graphs intersect at 3 labor units. Average product of labor and marginal product of labor is 59. If I draw it up, I see the total output at that level is 177. So I end up with 3 labor units, total product of 177, average product and marginal product of labor are both 59. And that does it for this tutorial on production theory with some numbers. Up next, I have a tutorial on the relationship of marginal product and average product, and I'll do a little calculus. And even if you don't know calculus, I'd still encourage you to watch the video.
Okay, so that was the nice tutorial on calculating the average product. And also, this is also a good tutorial on...
Has a common objective. Producers want to maximize profits. How do I know what profits are? Just as every consumer has a common objective, maximizing happiness, every producer has a common objective. Producers want to maximize profits. How do I know what profits are? Well, all I have to do as a business owner is to look at how much money has come in, my total revenue determined by how many units I've sold times the price tag I was able to charge for each unit, and then deduct the total cost of production, or the amount of money going out. The problem is that I don't really know much about costs or how to figure them out. Before I can figure out costs, I need to understand something about production and what happens as I pour more resources into the production process, since it's resources that cost money. Let's look at an example. I want to promote economics and how wonderful the subject is, so I need to produce banners that say, "I love economics," and I'm going to post them up everywhere. However, I don't really want to do the work. I'm really better in a supervisory capacity. So right now, I have 0 employees, and with 0 workers, I get 0 output. To get some production, I'll need to hire some workers. This is Lee, my first employee. He can produce 6 banners in a given time period. Lee is good, giving me 6 units, but how can I get more output? I'll need to hire a second employee. This is Angelina, my second worker. When Lee and Angelina work together as a team, 14 banners are produced. The interesting thing here is that when I doubled my workforce from 1 employee to 2, I more than doubled my output. When this happens, that is, when I see increasing returns from my added resource, it actually gets cheaper to produce each unit. Just a little more of the resource adds a lot more output. As a business owner, this is great for me. Now I hire a third employee, Oliver. Note that with the addition of Oliver to the team, I still get more output, but not as large a boost as I got when I hired Angelina. However, since my output's still rising, this time half again as many employees yield half again as much output, so I have constant returns. I will continue to hire workers. An issue arises when I hire my 4th employee, Katie. It doesn't have so much to do with her as a worker, since she has the same skill set as my other employees, but rather with the fact that I've been hiring more and more workers, but I haven't acquired more of the non-labor resources, like paper, ink, or computers. Now that I've brought Katie in, there isn't enough equipment for each employee to have his or her own supplies, so the employees will have to share. This overcrowding tends to slow things down a bit. I still end up with a bit more production, but if you think about it, I paid the extra money for an additional worker and don't have much extra output to show for it. If I continue to add more workers without purchasing any other resources, eventually I'll get to the point where more workers actually leads to less total output. This is not a good scenario for the business owner. Cost per unit goes through the roof if I pay more wages to get less output. Take a look at the data. At first, each worker adds more to the output than the previous worker. How is this possible if each of the workers has the same skills to do the job? Well, here's the way it typically works. At first, Lee is working alone, but when I add Angelina, they form a team and split the job into specialized tasks. When I conduct this experiment in class, most often I see one person take over the I love part, and the second person does the economics part. This specialization or division of labor leads to increasing marginal product. By definition, marginal product, or MP for short, is the addition to the total product when another unit of resource, in this case labor, is added. While you'll see increasing marginal product in the early stages of adding the resource, inevitably the law of diminishing returns will set in. The marginal product will fall as I add more and more of the same resource, workers here, due to overcrowding and shortage of other resources. Okay, here's the visual on how production progresses when you add more and more of one type of resource without changing the other resources. First, I hired Lee. My total product was 6, and he had added 6 to my product. Next, I hire Angelina. She added 8 to my production, giving me a total output of 14. Third, I bring Oliver to the team, bringing total product to 21. This means that Oliver added 7 to my output. Lastly, I hired Katie. Total production did increase to 24, but this was only 3 additional units of output. At this point, as the employer, I can see that my output is seriously slowing, and I would be cautious about spending more on labor. I would see very little increase in production, and quite likely output would even fall. As a business owner, it would probably be wiser at this point to invest in more of the other kinds of resources before hiring more workers. Next time, accounting costs versus economic costs.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and stop sharing. Okay? Let me go ahead and put this back. Okay. So far we covered most of the stuff. So let's go ahead and continue our topic. So that sort of gives us a brief explanation, pictorial explanation of what we discussed. So that way it's easier to understand, I hope. You see the relationship here? Average product, marginal cost, average variable cost, shifts in cost curves. So the position of a firm's cost curves depends on two factors: technology and price of productive resources. So we have technology as a source. We actually need that technology, the machinery to produce. Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. Let me share the links with you. This is the second link I showed. Right here. And then the first link, it was a calculation link, is here. There you go. Okay. So technology and prices of productive resources. Technological change influences both the productivity curves and cost curves. So when we add and incorporate more technology, you're welcome, more technology, it actually helps us. And then increasing productivity shifts the average and marginal product curves upward and average and marginal costs downward. So your average and marginal product, when it goes up, your average and marginal cost will go down. So they work in different ways. So if a technological advance brings more capital and less labor into use, fixed costs increase and variable costs decreases. So in this case, average total cost increases at low output levels and decreases at higher output levels. So the average total cost, there's a very important direct relationship between average total cost and your output. So as your output level increases, your average total cost goes down. They work in indirect ways. Changes in the prices of resources shift the cost curves also. So an increase in the fixed cost shifts the total cost up, and the average total cost curves upward, but does not shift the marginal cost. The marginal cost is just the extra cost you incur for extra output. So an increase in variable cost shifts and the total cost, average total cost, and marginal cost curves upward. So when your variable cost moves upward and increases, your total cost, your average total cost, and your marginal cost will go upward. So in the long run, all inputs are variable and all costs are variable. So the production function, the behavior of long-run cost depends upon the firm's production function, which is the relationship between the maximum output attainable and the quantities of both capital and labor. So the production function of your company is the key term, is the most important aspect and concept. You want to make sure your cost, the relationship between your output attainable and quantities of both capital and labor, there is a very important relation. You got to understand that. The marginal product of capital is the increase in the output resulting from 1 unit increase in the amount of capital employed, holding constant the amount of labor employed. So marginal product of capital. So this is not just marginal product of labor. This is marginal product of capital. When you employ more capital but with the same labor, you could still increase your product. So you have marginal product of labor and marginal product of capital. A first production function exhibits diminishing marginal returns to labor for a given plant size as well as diminishing marginal returns of capital. There's also this concept that you can add capital and increase your output to a certain level. Mr. Mohammed Aziz, do you have any questions? No? Yeah, okay, yeah. So for each plant size, diminishing marginal product of labor creates a set of short-run U-shaped cost curve for marginal cost, average cost, and average total cost. Short-run cost and long-run cost. So the average cost of producing a given output varies and depends on the first plant size. So the larger the plant size, the greater the output of which the average total cost is minimal. So when you have a larger output, a larger lot size, plant size, and or capital, then you have a higher chance of having the average total cost being less than the output. So the output, so that means you're in the right direction. India has 4 different plant sizes, 1, 2, 3, or 4 knitting machines. And each plant has a short-run average total cost curve. The firm can compare the average total cost curve for each given output at different plant sizes. So this is the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So the long-run average total cost is made up from all those together. So we want to decide which plant has the lowest cost from producing output. So let's find the least cost way of producing a given output level. Suppose he wants to produce 13 sweaters a day. So 13 sweaters a day cost 7.69 on each of them, right? So 13 sweaters a day cost 6.8 each on average total cost 2. On 3, it's 7.69. On number 4, it costs 9.50. So on average total cost number 2, it's the most reasonable, most efficient price. So the long-run average cost curve is the relationship between the lowest attainable average total cost and the output when both plant size and labor are varied. So you see, now we are introducing a couple more concepts. First of all, we said that not only labor can be changed, even the capital can be changed, like the plant size. And then we said when we have the capital can be changed and the labor can be changed, what our long-run cost curve should show us is the best, the most optimum, the most reasonable and or lowest attainable average cost using all our varied resources, which is labor and the plant size. So the long-run average cost curve is planning a curve that tells the firm the plant size that minimizes the cost of producing at any given output rate. So once the firm has chosen that plant size, it occurs the cost that corresponds to average total cost curve for the plant. So basically, that's how we get to that final point. You see? So then we get to these concepts of economies and diseconomies of a scale. Economies of a scale are features of a firm's technology that lead to falling long-run average cost as output increases. So we definitely want to tap on economies of a scale using our labor variable and our capital variable. So when we are able to use the technology to lead the average cost to the lowest possible at a certain level of output, then we are at economies of scale. So this economies of scale is features of a firm's technology that leads to a highest or a rise in average cost as output increases. So the constant returns to scale is features of a firm's technology that leads to constant long-run average cost as output increases. So you see, our goal then, our goal is to tap onto economies of scale and constantly get returns on that, because the features of technology is giving us that long-run average cost at the lowest level for us to be able to increase the output. So we see economies of scale and this economies. The economies of scale you see on the left-hand side, and this economies of scale you see on the right-hand side. Because as you can see, in the first, the average total cost is decreasing. So you are at the right part on economies of scale. But on the second or right-hand side, you see that the average total cost is increasing. So that's not a good sign. So long-run cost, the firm's experiences economies of scale up to some output level. Beyond that output level, it moves into constant returns to scale or diseconomies of scale. So you don't want to get to diseconomies of scale or constant returns to scale, meaning constant in cost, which is increasing. So minimum efficient scale is the smallest quantity of output at which the long-run average cost reaches its lowest level. So you want to stay there. So if the long-run average cost curve is U-shaped, the minimum point identifies the minimum efficient scale output level. And that will end this chapter, which is output and cost. So before I show you some more clips, are there any questions? Okay.
Hi guys, it's Colin again from
Okay, so let me just show you this video clip I was looking for. Yeah. What I will do, I will show you another video clip on economies of scope and economies of scale. So this way, that will conclude the chapter. We'll see a few minutes of it, and then we'll be able to basically, you know, I'll give you your task. So
Careful.
okay. 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 So that was a nice video clip. I just wanted to show you guys. So Yeah, I was showing you a video clip. So everybody saw that video clip, right? Can you confirm if you were able? I was showing you a video clip. Could you see that? So for those of you who were not able to see it, I'll just give it to you here. Okay. There you go. Let me try one more time. Maybe you can see this time. Can you see this time? Can you see what's going on? You don't see it. Do you see it now? Yes. So production average cost. Increasing that cost. The minimum scale. Five types of internal economy. We have financial, very marketing, managerial. So first prototype, much easier. The financial growing that is how the product is out there. This is spread across the customer base. Marketing is large product range that will use central brand marketing to advertise full extra cost. So you're just brand marketing and all your products are covered under that marketing for the brand. Or managerial economy, like the brand, the opportunity to support special managers, areas like operations, finance. Above an average cost. So the theory that was creating out is the rest on top of those things from outcome. So the outcome double the best. And then external economy, what is the position where the are holding us for above an average cost from all the firms, like infrastructure improvement. And then when firms becomes too large and moves beyond its minimum efficient scale, then the cost increases and falls apart. Okay? So hopefully you were able to see this time. Were you able to see the second time? Yeah, okay, very good. So this is the practical, like I just wanted to see it with the video as well, and I thought that might be helpful. So before we end the class, I want you guys to work on an assignment. Okay. Explain the long run cost and how to attain economies of scale. Okay, so the task for today is please explain the long run cost and how to attain economies of scale. Okay, who wants to volunteer? Mr. Miyako, would you like to start your answer and explain what you think about it? Who wants to explain first? Do you guys understand the question? Do you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, so would you like to answer the question? Just briefly explain what do we mean by the long run cost and how to attain the economies of scale. So who wants to go first? Would you want to do it first, Ms. Oria? Okay, so I'll activate your microphone. Please go ahead. So who wants to answer the question? Mr. Miyako, would you want to try? Problem. Hear you, Mr. Miyako. So why don't you guys type it down here? I mean, the answer to the question. What do we mean by long run costs and how to attain the economies of scale? Nobody wants to answer the question? This is your in-class task, so I expect you guys to give me your answers. I mean, if you want to discuss it and make sure that you're on the same page, so I want you to try. So go ahead. So you either should type it down or explain it to the class. So which one are you more comfortable in? Please, if you don't volunteer, then I have to volunteer you. So, okay, if that is the case, okay, so please start, Ms. Oria. How do you respond to this question? So you can either tell us via the microphone or you can type it for us. First of all, can you tell us what is the long run cost? what did he learn about long run cost and how we can utilize that? Are you guys listening? Hello? Please type it down here. I mean, I don't understand why you guys are not participating. I mean, I want to make sure you understood the concept. So why don't you just, there is no right or wrong answer. I just want you to tell me what you understand, and then we'll. Yes, that's correct. And we also talked about labor and capital, right? Because we are not just discussing about capital and labor. So in the long run, we choose the best possible cost option, right? Like the next chart was showing you that when we have the different plans, 1, 2, 3, and 4, the one that gives us the lowest long run average cost, we'll pick that one, right? And then to attain economies of scale, using that technology and everything that we have, we want to make sure we have the average cost falling when the output increases. So like this chart shows, the economies of scale is where the average total cost is falling. So we want to stay there. So we want to use our labor, our capital in the long run the way that we minimize the increase in the average cost as the output increases. So that's where we have economies of scale. Okay, so I hope next time you guys will participate a little bit more. I mean, you have been very good students, and I remember in all the classes you have been very much participative. But I don't know why today no one was participating. So I expect you guys to contribute more to the class, be more active in the class. So that's for sure something I expect from you, and that's what I think is going to help the learning process. Yeah, very good. Okay, so don't forget to send me by email that the topic and I mean the task. And for those of you who celebrate Nowruz, happy Nowruz to you and your dear family. Happy Persian New Year. I hope you have a great year. And if you're driving, traveling, have a safe drive and travel. Great time. Next week we won't have any classes, and I'll see you the week after. So happy Nowruz to all of you and those of you who celebrate, and all the best to you and to your families. And by that, we will finish the class. All the best, and have a good night. Thank you.